The glow of the monitor was an eerie blue in the darkness. On the screen, a grainy image flickered. It was an old building shrouded in shadow, Blackwood Asylum. The name sent shivers down my spine. Even as a pixelated image, the building exuded an aura of dread. It felt cold, abandoned, forgotten. I had stumbled upon it deep within the internet, lost in a labyrinth of online forums and forgotten websites. The asylum had been closed for decades, condemned and left to rot. But the stories, the whispers of what happened within its walls, those never truly died. There was one story in particular that drew me in, a tale that was more chilling, more sinister than all the others. The legend of Ward 13. It was a place where the most disturbed, the most dangerous patients were kept. A place where even the staff feared to tread. A place of screams and shadows. There were rumors of horrific experiments, of patients disappearing without a trace. No one who was ever sent to Ward 13 ever left, not truly. They were either declared dead, lost to their madness, or simply vanished. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through the forum posts. There were blurry photos, first-hand accounts from former staff and patients. All of them spoke of Ward 13 with a mix of fear and reverence. It was a place of whispers and shadows, where the veil between sanity and madness was thin. Some dismissed it as folklore, the ramblings of troubled minds, but I felt a pull, a morbid curiosity. I had to know more. I spent hours, then days, scouring the internet for any scrap of information about Ward 13. It became an obsession, consuming my every waking thought. I neglected my work, my friends, my life outside the digital glow of my computer screen. The more I learned, the deeper the rabbit hole went. And then I found it. A link buried deep within a forgotten corner of the internet. A link to something that sent a chill down my spine. The title, barely legible, read simply, Ward 13 footage. My finger hovered over the link, trembling. My mind screamed at me to turn back, to close the laptop and walk away, but something, perhaps that same morbid curiosity, drew me in. I clicked. The screen flickered to black for a moment, then a grainy video began to play. It was dark, the camera shaking as if the person holding it was trembling. The air was thick with the stench of stale air and disinfectant. It was a security camera feed, the date and time stamped in the corner. It was from the final night Ward 13 was operational. The footage showed a lone security guard, his face pale and drawn, making his rounds. He muttered to himself, his words barely audible. He was scared, that much was clear. He kept glancing over his shoulder as if he could feel something watching him. The video was a chilling glimpse into the final hours of Ward 13. The guard's fear was palpable, and it was contagious. I could feel my own heart pounding in my chest as I watched the footage. As the guard moved down the hallway, the camera picked up something in the shadows. A fleeting glimpse of movement, a shadow that shouldn't have been there. The guard stopped, his breath catching in his throat. He raised his flashlight, shining it down the hallway. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice shaky. There was no answer, just the sound of his own breathing and the faint hum of the fluorescent lights. But something was wrong. The air grew colder and I felt a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, as if I was being watched. The guard took a step back, his hand trembling as he reached for his radio. "Control, this is Miller," he said, his voice tight with fear. "I've got something in Ward 13. I repeat, something in Ward 13. The feed cut out, the screen went black. Then an email notification popped up on my screen. The sender was unknown. The subject line sent a chill down my spine. "You shouldn't have seen that." My blood ran cold. Who had sent me that email? How did they know I was watching the footage? I tried to rationalize it. It was just a coincidence, some sick prank, but deep down I knew it was more than that. I could feel it in my gut. I was in over my head. I tried to close the email, to shut down my computer, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. My finger hovered over the mouse, unable to click. I had to know more. I had to understand what I had stumbled upon. Ignoring the voice in the back of my mind screaming at me to run, I clicked on the email. It was short, just a single line of text. Want to see more? Attached to the message was another video file. This one was even grainier than the first, the footage distorted and warped. It was almost as if it didn't want to be seen, as if it was fighting back against being brought into the light. The footage started with a shot of a padded cell, the door slightly ajar. The room was dark, but I could make out the shape of a figure huddled in the corner. The camera moved closer, drawn in by an unseen force. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my ears. As the camera inched closer, the figure in the corner slowly turned its head. It was then that I realized with a jolt of terror that it had no eyes, just empty black sockets staring out from the darkness. The creature in the cell let out a low, guttural growl, and I recoiled from the screen. The sound was inhuman, primal. It sent shivers down my spine and burrowed deep into my bones. The camera dropped to the floor as if the person holding it had fallen back in terror. For a moment, there was only darkness. Then, in the final seconds of the footage, I saw it. A single eye glowing an eerie green, staring directly at the camera, staring directly at me. The video ended. I sat there, frozen in my chair, my mind reeling. What had I just seen? Was it real, or was it just a clever hoax designed to prey on the fears of the gullible? I tried to convince myself it was the latter, but deep down I knew better. There was something about that footage, something about that eye that felt all too real. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something dark and sinister, something that I was never meant to see. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that eye staring back at me from the darkness. I started seeing shadows in the corner of my vision, hearing whispers in the dead of night. The line between reality and nightmare began to blur. Was I going mad, or was something else at play? My obsession with Ward 13 had consumed me, poisoning my mind with fear and paranoia. Just as I was about to give in to despair, I found a glimmer of hope. Buried deep within the comments section of a forgotten online forum, I stumbled upon a message from someone claiming to have worked at Blackwood Asylum. They spoke of a secret sublevel, a place even more terrifying than Ward 13, a place where they performed their most horrific experiments, a place where they summoned something dark and powerful, something they couldn't control. According to this anonymous source, the key to understanding Ward 13, the key to stopping whatever evil was unleashed there, lay in this hidden sublevel. I knew what I had to do. I had to go to Blackwood. I had to see for myself what horrors lay hidden within its walls. It was a reckless, perhaps even suicidal decision, but I no longer cared. I was in too deep. I had seen too much. I had to know the truth, even if it destroyed me. It was a dark and stormy night when I arrived at the gates of Blackwood Asylum. The wind howled like a banshee, and rain lashed down in sheets. Lightning flashed, illuminating the crumbling facade of the asylum. For just a moment, it was like something out of a nightmare. I could feel a sense of dread wash over me as I stepped out of my car and onto the overgrown driveway. Ignoring the voice in my head screaming at me to turn back, I pressed on. I made my way through the overgrown grounds towards the looming silhouette of the asylum. The windows were dark, lifeless eyes staring back at me. I could hear the wind whistling through the broken panes of glass like the whispers of tortured souls. Then I saw it, a face in one of the windows on the top floor. It was pale and gaunt, with eyes that burned with an unholy light. It was watching me, and it was smiling. Terror gripped my heart. I wanted to run, to turn back and never look back, but something held me rooted to the spot. I felt a strange pull towards that face, towards that window. It was like something was calling to me, beckoning me closer. I knew then that I wasn't going to find any answers tonight, that this was only the beginning. The face in the window was a promise, a threat. a warning that I'd ventured too far, that I'd seen too much, and that there was no turning back. I turned and ran. I ran until I could run no more, until the asylum was nothing but a distant memory in my rearview mirror. But I knew deep down that it was not over. Blackwood had its hooks in me now, and it would never let go. The haunting had just begun.